Okay, so I will be talking about the autonomic nervous system, the functions and the structure of it. So what it is, the autonomic nervous system, it's also known as the visceral nervous system. It's involuntary, unconscious. It's the involuntary, unconscious part of the nervous system. It controls smooth muscles, as well as the cardiac muscle and the glands and the internal organs. It has two neuron pathways, pre-ganglionic as well as post-ganglionic. The autonomic nervous system is divided into two, which is the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems. The sympathetic nervous system is it's around the thoracolumbar region, and then the parasympathetic is around the craniosacral region. The ganglia in the sympathetic, it's located at the spinal cord in a chain, and then the parasympathetic, it's close to the target organs. The different lengths of the postganglionic fibers, you can see that in the sympathetic, they are long, but in the parasympathetic, it's short. And the postganglionic branches, in the sympathetic, it's there are many. There are many because they need to mobilize many organs, multiple organs. And then in the parasympathetic, there are very little. There's very little branching. So what I can say about the parasympathetic and the sympathetic is, for the parasympathetic nervous system, they actually they do the opposite of the other. For example, the parasympathetic stimulates the flow of saliva, while the sympathetic inhibits the flow of saliva. The parasympathetic will slow the heartbeat, while the sympathetic will accelerate the heartbeat. One more example is the parasympathetic will constrict the bronchi, while the sympathetic will dilate the bronchi. Okay, so one of the functions of, sorry, next slide, please. Yes. No, doctor, we are still not there. We should be on slide number 4. One of the functions of the autonomic nervous system should be, we can also say that it regulates the blood pressure. It has a mechanism for the fight or flight response. It's for breathing, regulating the metabolism, the heart rate, the secretion of bodily fluids, saliva, sweat, and urine. It also regulates the body temperature. Okay, so the ANS, which is the autonomic nervous system, it works by receiving information from your external stimuli of the body. So, or the body. The hypothalamus, which is right above the brainstem. On my slide for central. Doctor, can we go back? Okay, yes, there. No, there, doctor. On the central control of the autonomic nervous system, you can see that the hypothalamus is right above the brainstem, and then it receives the autonomic regulatory input from the limbic system. The hypothalamus uses this input to control much of the activity of the ANS. You can also see under the hypothalamus, you find the reticular formation, which is the most direct influence over the autonomic function. Okay, so when we talk about the sympathetic nervous system in detail, I can tell you that the sympathetic nervous system, it's involved in, next slide, please. Okay, yes, here. The sympathetic nervous system is involved in response that help us deal with emergencies. So what it does is it slows the bodily processes that are less important in emergencies, such as digestion. For instance, if the temperature of a room is hot, the sympathetic system will encourage the body to sweat in response to this change. One of the most noticeable functions of the sympathetic branch is that during a fight or flight response, during conditions that are considered threatening or stressful, the sympathetic system, it activates, providing an autonomic response. Another example of this is when you're walking home alone during a dark street. This can be very scary. So whilst walking, your pupils may dilate, your heart rate may increase, and then you may start sweating. When you're also in a stressful situation, the sympathetic nervous system will release a large quantity of neurotransmitters, epinephrine, from your adrenal gland. Once the stimulating neurotransmitter is released, this triggers the body's autonomic response. And then the purpose of stimulating this bodily response is to prepare the individual to either escape or fight in a dangerous situation. One thing that the sympathetic nervous system does is also it blocks pain. So what it does is it sensitizes painful nerve endings. It widens your arteries, causing redness or swelling, and then it activates dendritic cells, causing inflammation. One of the benefits of this is the reduction of pain. It reduces the pain and then the redness of the swelling, and then it temporarily breaks sympathetic nerve contribution to the chronic pain cycle, and then it promotes participation in complete pain care. But another disadvantage of this is that you may not be able to respond to pain exacerbation. And then another risk factor is it also depends where the pain is. So that can be quite dangerous. Can we please move on to the next slide, the parasympathetic nervous system? I can tell you about the parasympathetic nervous system. This is the system that relaxes an individual once the emergency has passed. So once an emergency has passed, like the one I told you about when in a flight or fight situation, the parasympathetic needs to slow the heart rate down and then reduce the blood pressure, and then it conserves the body's natural activity by decreasing the activity and maintaining it. Okay. The parasympathetic nervous system is associated with returning the body to the resting state functions. Like I said, it regulates the heart rate, relaxes the muscles, and it controls the bladder. This is very important in supporting homeostasis. Okay, so the pupils will constrict, the heart rate returns to a resting rhythm, sweating is reduced or stopped. The parasympathetic system is therefore important for ensuring we return to normal after a stressful situation. Without the system, the body will be constantly alert, draining all energy, and this can lead to chronic stress. Next slide, please. So one of the systems that I did not mention is that the autonomic nervous system also has another division, which is the enteric nervous system. What the enteric nervous system is it's the system, it operates independently of the central nervous system. And then this system consists of neurons, which are confined to the gastrointestinal tract. It can also function autonomously of the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, but it is also influenced by them. The neurons, which comprise the enteric system, they are responsible for controlling the motor functions of the system, as well as secreting enzymes within the gastrointestinal tract. The types of neurons within the enteric system are sensory, motor, and interneurons. The neurons within the system communicate through many neurotransmitters such as dopamine, serotonin, and acetylcholine. The circuits of neurons within the system are able to control local blood flow and modulate immune functions. So the next slide, please. Okay, so I spoke about the neurotransmitters. So there are three main neurotransmitters involved for successful communication within the autonomic nervous system. The first one is acetylcholine, epinephrine, the second, and then the third is norepinephrine. Norepinephrine, sorry.
1 minute.
Acetylcholine.
1 minute.
One minute, then we'll reconnect.
Okay. Okay, I can quickly do this. Acetylcholine is primarily found within the parasympathetic nervous system, which has an inhibiting effect. Epinephrine, also known as adrenaline, is primarily found within the sympathetic nervous system, which has a stimulating effect, and norepinephrine, also known as noradrenaline, primarily found within the sympathetic nervous system, which has a stimulating effect. We are done. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
I'm